Okay, people, so right after George Bush 2.0 bombed Iran and declared mission accomplished, he gave a victory speech within an hour of the alleged strike, doing Netanyahu's dirty work like a good little goy, said Iran's nuclear facilities were officially destroyed and that the strikes were over. We officially won World War III. Now the backpedaling begins. Endless articles popping up saying, well, actually, the mission wasn't fully accomplished, Might need boots on the ground after all. The same liars who sold you WMDs in Iraq are back with the Iraq War 2.0, okay? The worst sequel ever. Call it Fast and Furious Tehran Drift, or maybe just Iranian Grift. But as we all know, if MSM reports on something the same way, it's a psyop at play, okay? From Fox News, CNN to MSNBC, all sounding like they're reading off a script handed to them by Raytheon. And what's the new consensus of the MSM propaganda networks? Apparently those airstrikes didn't fully destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. Whoopsie. Guess we need another round. Maybe a strike every month like a booster shot. Isn't that funny? 2 weeks to flatten Iran's nuclear facilities and a booster strike every month. Funny how history rhymes, huh? Oh, and on top of all of that, Clown World has officially reached the highest peak. It does not get more insane than this. Trump posted this on his Truth Social. Get this. Bum, 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 Iran. It's catchy, I gotta say. Some rocks. Tell the Ayatollah gonna put you in a box. Great, right? How hilarious is this? Are you not entertained? Oh, you thought it was gonna be an in and out mission, huh? Well, too bad. This isn't your ex-wife. This relationship is going to be a long one, okay? Headline says this: U.S. intelligence intercepted classified communications in which Iranian officials admitted the strikes were less devastating than expected. Do you see where this is going? Why would they even admit that? What we will see here from this point on is a common theme. Both sides saying all the wrong things and lacking common sense. Is it done because they are incompetent? Or are they involved in the same theater, pretending to be on opposite sides to create tension, which ultimately leads to bloodshed and human sacrifice to appease their demonic deities they worship? This is human sacrifice for Baal and Malak. Both sides funded by the same people. That means war is done for literally no reason except for the demons with bloodlust that thrive off misery. Iran's Grand Ayatollah issues fatwa calling Muslims around the world to kill Trump and Netanyahu, declaring them enemies of God. Didn't we get a Sunni terrorist deepfake just a few months ago or a few weeks ago saying the same thing? So now the whole Muslim world is saying the same thing here, a coordinated plot to have Israel painted as the ultimate victim. Iranian lawmakers literally shouted death to America and death to Israel right after voting to halt IAEA's nuclear inspections. And then reports came out saying Iran removed all UN surveillance cameras from its nuclear facilities. But wait, I thought the nuclear facilities were blown up. I guess somehow they didn't harm the cameras, huh? Those cameras must have been made with indestructible material. Probably using the same cameras they used to film the 1950s nuke experiments. Remember those ones? Yeah, I wonder how those cams weren't destroyed. Or the radiation not ruining the films either. I'm just saying. Are nukes a psychological warfare weapon more than anything? I mean, the exact time these weapons were apparently created, it was during the end of World War II. I mean, a convenient time to let your enemies know you have such a devastating bomb that could wipe out entire cities. Some even say Japan was firebombed. Hiroshima and Nagasaki straight firebombed like Dresden, and the DICs lied about using nukes. A Japanese man actually wrote about this in a book called Death Object, Exploding the Nuclear Weapon Hoax. His name was Akio Nakatani. In the book, he says the Allied forces lied about dropping nukes in order to make the Japanese cave and surrender, which not only did Emperor Hirohito surrender shortly after, but he even mentioned that the USA went too far by using cruel bombs, end quote. He mentioned the bombs specifically in the context of the devastation they caused in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and used it as a reason for Japan's surrender, stating that continuing the war would lead to the obliteration of the Japanese nation and the potential extinction of human civilization. So did the DICs have motive to lie about nukes back then? Yes. Does the footage back then look fake AF? Also, yes. Can you use the same nuclear energy that can power up a whole city and turn it into a massive bomb? Maybe. And maybe they do have that tech now. I don't know. But did they have the technology back then? I don't know. Probably not. It seems pretty iffy. Maybe they knew the tech was possible in the future, but they didn't have it, so they decided to fake it. I mean, would you be surprised if that happened? I mean, they did have some of the best Hollywood producers ever and directors in the world, so why not? I believe there is more devastating technology now than nukes, okay? 5G towers on every corner and 6G incoming. I believe they have direct energy weapons that can turn entire buildings to dust, so I don't believe the idea of a big bomb is impossible. In one of the videos back then, there was a car that magically appears after the bomb goes off, and there's just something weird about the whole footage, okay? Really highly suspicious out here. I gotta say, something about it seems off, doesn't it? Like miniature houses or something. But once again, never trust what the demonic pedals in charge are selling, because they've been caught in absurd lies time and time again. Big lies, small lies. How many times do they have to get caught before people wake up to the fact that nothing they say can be trusted? We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false, said William J. Casey, CIA director in 1981. From COVID, the lies about vaccines, geoengineering, false flag attacks, WMDs in Iraq. We're dealing with professional liars with an infinite amount of resources to push said lie. And now they want you to believe Iran is about to make a nuke. Israel has been trying to convince us Iran, their sworn enemy, has been only 2 weeks away from making a nuke. 40 years ago. And now Iran turns around and says the US did nothing to stop them from getting a bomb. And in response, the US admits they only delayed Iran's nuclear program by a few months. First, it was 15 days away from a bomb. Now it's 3 months. Yeah, if you believe that, I got a vaccine to sell you. And this one cures stupidity. So now Trump's back on the warpath after saying mission accomplished. The strikes on Iran were the best, most tremendous strikes ever. And then came out saying he'll bomb Iran again without question if they keep enriching uranium to levels he doesn't like. He's even talking about demanding Iran hand over their entire nuclear stockpile after saying at first the US destroyed the entire nuclear program. How hilarious is that statement right there? Like he's just asking the cashier for the rest of his change, hand over the nuclear stockpile. We know you have more uranium, hand it over, damn it. And wait, if Iran did have enough enriched uranium to create a few nukes, wouldn't the strikes cause some kind of Chernobyl or Fukushima type disaster? Well, I guess not, okay? Zero nuclear fallout too. Maybe the bombs were eco-friendly. The US was using bombs designed by Greta Thunberg. They struck the ground and caused zero damage to the environment, too. Iran's supreme leader Khamenei just said they'll strike US bases again if provoked. This is how you know this is all theater right here, okay? Iran informed the US exactly which bases they would strike in the Middle East hours before they sent the missiles out. How hilarious is that? Yeah, great war tactic right there, Iran. Real Sun Tzu type stuff. Inform your enemies exactly where you'll strike them to give them enough time to evacuate. I'm sure Khamenei is reading The Art of War. Genius war tactic right there. All theater, just like Lindsey Flimsy Graham crawling out of a cave from hell just to give us this gem right here. He said, "This is my foreign policy when it comes to Israel. God blesses those who bless Israel." Clearly a threat, okay? Then he admits, in quotes, "I don't know where the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium exists, but it wasn't part of the target set." Yeah, thanks for clarifying, Flimsy Lindsey. But hey, let's send boots on the ground anyway. Flimsy Graham had the nerve to say this. You know these bastards are desperate when they start throwing around the Hitler label, okay? This is when they really mean it and they need war.
Can President Trump in any form, can you make the commitment that this would not lead to a longer war? I can guarantee you that if the Ayatollah gets a nuclear weapon, he will use it. I believe that with all my heart and soul. So the men and women who serve, they're the ones going, not people answering a poll. And if you ask them, would you be willing to risk your life to stop the Ayatollah from having a nuclear weapon? All of them would say yes, because it makes their country, our country, safer. So we live in a world where you got to confront problems. You want to avoid World War III? Learn the lessons from World War II.
Which was a lie, too. Everything that happened in that war, they lied about. I mean, should we have learned our lessons from World War II? If we did, these bastards would not be in office, and Israel wouldn't own all of Congress.
People in World War II appeased Hitler to the point that it got so much out of hand, we had a world war and 60 million people got killed. So we live in a world where you pay now or you pay later. Let's stop this threat before he gets a nuclear weapon. Let's end this reign of terror. Let's do it now. It's not going to take 20 months, but I can't guarantee you your freedom and your safety unless we're willing to fight for it. I can guarantee you this. If we don't fight for our freedom, we will lose it.
I mean, imagine the kind of dirt they have on this man. They have all kind of footage of him on Epstein's Island. We must go to war with Iran. All American troops would love to die in another war for Israel. No question. But Lindsay, where is the enriched uranium? He's like, enriched uranium? Oh, yeah, right. That's why we need boots on the ground there. You know, it's like, if you can't see this is all about regime change, I don't know what to tell you. Israeli Defense Minister Katz announced the IDF will begin striking any Iranian targets it views as threats going forward, despite Trump's ceasefire. Katz also revealed that Israel tried to kill Ayatollah Khamenei against President Trump's orders. When asked, Katz said, "We don't need American permission for these things." There you have it, people. America acts like the world police, except when Israel conducts crimes against humanity. I mean, they're free to do whatever the hell they want because, you know, they have those tapes. They have the tapes of what happened on Epstein's Island that would probably collapse this entire system if they released it. That's why they threaten us with phrases like, if Israel falls, the entire world falls. I mean, can you imagine the kind of dirt they have on warmongering lunatic Lindsey Flimsy Graham? I mean, the same kind of videos they had of Glenn Greenwald. I'm not going to play them here, but come on, okay? That's the kind of ish they have, satanic humiliation ritual type videos, and they will leak it if you criticize them in any way, okay? They still want to topple the Iranian regime. That is clearly in the plans. Right when you think it's over in the Middle East, you read a new article like this one. Trump admin notifies Congress of plans to provide $500 million in guidance systems to Israel for its 2,000-pound and 500-pound bombs. At this point, voting is basically choosing between war Jews or gay Jews. Millions of Americans can't afford to buy a house, can barely put food on the table, but every year we send billions of dollars to Israel, who has taken more foreign aid than any country in history, approximately $305 billion in foreign aid. America first, they scream. The DICs are thirsty again, okay? And you know their favorite drink, baby blood. The so-called ceasefire was the most violent ceasefire I've ever seen. Iran and Israel went right back to slaughtering each other almost immediately after Trump had the nerve to tweet, "Make Iran great again," as another bomb wipes out a playground. Which really makes you wonder about "Make America great again" and what that means. If bombing the shit out of innocent people in Iran is making Iran great again, what do you think their plans are for the States? Remember all that Trump versus Netanyahu drama? Yeah, they wanted us to believe Trump was done with Bibi, saying he's fed up with him and has cut ties officially. Remember that? I was one of the first ones to come on here and tell you it was theater. I mean, literal theater. They can't have Trump out there looking like a little bitch for Israel, so they update the script or go off script, so to speak, you know, giving people the illusion these are independent actors. Big orange man tough. People love that kind of shit, you know? So during that time, Trump allegedly cut ties with Netanyahu. This was a few months back. Congress secretly passed another anti-Semitism bill. Months back, they were clamping down on free speech secretly. And during this so-called fallout, turns out Trump was working with Israel the whole time, pretending to broker peace while setting Iran up to get hit. They were running a disinfo campaign on Iran. Real Jewy, am I right? Sounds pretty Jewy. Fast forward to now, and the theater keeps playing out the same way. Trump was yelling at interviewers, on camera dropping F-bombs, saying he doesn't know what the fuck Iran and Israel are doing, end quote.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have to respond in Iran?
And just like that, the people in Q say, see, the Q-tarded sheeples pop up. He's not anyone's puppet. He's his own man. He said the F word. He's free. The Q-tarded sheeples scream. And then less than 24 hours later, he tweets that America will personally save Netanyahu from prosecution. That's right. He calls Bibi a war hero and threatens to cut aid to Israel if they even think about prosecuting Bibi. And voila, we're back to regular scheduled programming. And what exactly is going on with this prosecution in Israel? It's been 5 years of dragging this thing out like they're intentionally stalling it. Okay, Netanyahu is being prosecuted. It's like they're waiting for the right moment to politically just make it disappear. Netanyahu's facing charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust across multiple cases. And yeah, this is the same guy who goes on TV pretending he's the most moral person in the world while airstriking schools and hospitals. There's case 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000. These couple cases here that he's facing. One case is about him and his wife taking luxury gifts, cigars, champagne, and jewelry from billionaire friends. Another involves shady deals with media bosses where Bibi allegedly said, "You make me look good in the press and I'll make sure your company gets special treatment." End quote. Which is kind of the same shit the Liberal Party does here in Canada. But the craziest part is Bibi is still in power, still bombing children, still smiling for cameras. Imagine if Biden was on trial for felony bribery while drone striking Minneapolis. That's how insane this is. And now, the most compromised puppet of them all, Trump comes in to Bibi's rescue, screaming, "Witch hunt." He says the whole trial is just over cigars and a Bugs Bunny doll. No kidding either. In the 1990s, Netanyahu's wife asked a Hollywood mogul, Arnon Milchan, to bring their kid a giant cartoon bunny. Trump is acting like that's proof right there the whole case is a joke. He's like, really? A cartoon rabbit? That's what we're doing now? Out of all the luxury gifts Netanyahu took, I mean, diamonds, cigars, champagne, and straight up money, bribes wrapped in gold, Trump zeroes in on the bunny. Why is he bringing up a bunny like this? Okay, because there's a lot more to this case. It's like he's intentionally trying to make it sound ridiculous, but the plot twist here is that stupid plush rabbit might be the most damning piece of evidence, because Netanyahu claimed he barely knew Milchan at the time. But if his wife was asking him for toys for their kid, that's not distant, okay? That's a close relationship. That's collusion. That rabbit blows a hole in Bibi's entire defense. It proves the relationship was close, personal, and long-running, not some random acquaintance. And the fact that Trump, of all people, chose to downplay that detail tells you everything. It's always the thing they mock the loudest that ends up being the breadcrumb. And funny enough, deeper down the rabbit hole we go, because let's not ignore what the rabbit actually means. You ever see the chemical symbol for adrenochrome? It's a rabbit, a literal white cartoon bunny tied to the molecule structure. Follow the rabbit, they say. Elon Musk tweeted that exact tweet in December 2022. Just the word follow with a bunny emoji. No context, no explanation. Same white rabbit that keeps showing up around child trafficking imagery. In one meme, you've got Obama and Clooney on a boat with a panicked child, then a girl on Obama's lap. Then right next to it, a duct-taped kid in a box beside a rabbit and the adrenochrome molecule. Then you've got the original US adrenochrome patent from 1948, filed by Decider, Fleischhacker, and Norman Barsel. Granted in 1952. Weird indeed, but the weirdest occult rabbit connection was in May 2025. Trump posted a photo on Truth Social showing UK military intercepting a drug shipment from Iran. Zoom in, and inside the cockpit of the helicopter is a plush rabbit, sitting right there on the dashboard. Clear as day. And just like that, Trump deletes the post without any explanation. Why? And why is this rabbit showing up in all the darkest places, okay? They're mentioning rabbits, bunnies. Why are they pointing to it like this? Are they pretending it means nothing? Out of every possible gift tied to Arnon Milchan, the man who helped steal U.S. nuclear secrets for Israel, this is the man right here, the Israeli spy, the man tied to Epstein's legal team, the Mossad-linked spy who ran Hollywood like a psychological operation, that's the one Trump brings up? The rabbit? Maybe the toy rabbit was really something else, a Pizzagate reference. And of course, They want you to laugh it off, like, come on, dude, it's just a cartoon, right? And Epstein was just a normal dude with a private island, right? That's how they play you. They make it sound silly so you don't look any deeper. But Bugs Bunny is not just a doll. Follow it and you fall face first into a real rabbit hole where spies, celebrities, and politicians are all playing for the same dark team. And anytime you try to connect the dots, they scream anti-Semitism and shut the conversation down. So now Trump, the anti-globalist and free speech warrior, is threatening to cut off U.S. aid unless Israel drops the only trial that might hold Netanyahu accountable for something. Not war crimes, not the piles of dead kids, just the luxury gifts. And even that is too much for the DICs to handle. Okay, they can't have their top puppets sweat on camera. It's a bad look for the empire. So what's really going on in this trial here? It's not just Netanyahu, it's the whole idea of justice. They're testing how much open corruption they can get away with before people snap. And guess what? We already failed the test. And they're behind the curtain, laughing, lighting cigars, and maybe tossing around a plushie or two, ordering 80,000 pizzas. Arnon Milchan is not just some rich guy with a production company. He's a full-blown Israeli spy. Not was, is. He worked for Lechem, an Israeli intelligence unit that was so shady it got shut down after the Jonathan Pollard spy scandal. Milchan spent years smuggling nuclear tech out of the US to build Israel's illegal nuke program. And while he was doing that, he ran a fertilizer company as cover before jumping straight into Hollywood. You know his movies: Pretty Woman, Fight Club, LA Confidential, The Medusa Touch, a film where a plane crashes into a skyscraper before 9/11, or The Devil's Advocate, where the movie opens with Keanu Reeves defending a child molester. That one was produced with the help from Gerald Lefcourt, one of Epstein's lawyers. You seeing the pattern yet? Milchan bragged about it on Israeli TV, said he was proud to do spy work for Israel, even while producing blockbusters. He kept ties with Israel's leadership too, recruited people in Hollywood, got close with Robert De Niro, Ben Affleck, Russell Crowe, even tried to pull the late director Sidney Pollack into the intelligence game. Meanwhile, he was giving Netanyahu and his wife endless gifts, and in return, Bibi pulled strings to get him a 10-year US visa. This is all documented, not a theory. This really happened. Netanyahu paid off John Kerry to get Milchan into the States and used him like an Epstein type for Hollywood. So when Trump gets online and calls this trial a joke over a bunny doll, he's not defending Bibi, the politician. He's defending the whole operation, the whole infiltration. Milchan is Epstein, but with a film catalog instead of an island. Instead of flying in underage girls, he flew in influence. He rewired culture, manipulated perception, and brainwashed people with Israeli propaganda through film. So this is a decades-long psychological war run through Hollywood. And the DICs are banking on you to roll your eyes and just move along, nothing to see here, even using hero Trump to downplay the whole thing. And why are no conservative influencers bringing this up? Well, get this. No More News posted this. What's up with Arnon Milchan, Cernovich? Get this. Patrick Holy says, out of all of the Arnon Milchan plants like Cerno, etc., the only one I made friends with was Laura Loomer, who I do think is a good person. But if she doesn't help us stop Western genocide, then whatever. We need results and we need them yesterday. Arnon Milchan of the Mossad bought all the conservative influencers back in 2017. They're going to blacklist me for saying it, but who cares? I was never on their list to begin with. All the people who are influencers in conservative politics in recent years are Mossad, handled by Arnon Milchan, all from the same program. Ask one of them to criticize Israel. None of them will. It's a program. All of conservative media is in on it. Look at who in conservative media took payments from Arnon Milchan to push Mossad narratives. Almost all of the conservative influencer space in recent years has been paid off for by Arnon Milchan of the Mossad. I guess most people didn't know that. And right after Trump plays Messiah for Netanyahu, swearing to save him like some kind of end times bodyguard, for the chosen ones, his team drops $1 million nuke on Thomas Massie. That's right. The one guy in Congress actually calling out AIPAC and the Israeli lobby by name. What's the crime? Refusing to bend the knee? So now Trump's PAC is pumping attack ads in Kentucky accusing Massie of siding with Democrats and the Ayatollah. In other words, Trump is angry Massie didn't kiss the ring. Okay, he didn't bow to the foreign lobby that apparently writes U.S. domestic policy now. The Trump machine wants him gone. They're openly threatening to replace him with someone more manageable. Someone who will shut up and obey and kiss Netanyahu's ring. Why is Trump going scorched earth on Massey? Because Massey said no to the pre-approved AIPAC handler. Yeah, that's real. That's a real thing. Every member of Congress is expected to let AIPAC place one of their people inside their office. Like a political babysitter, Massey didn't play ball, so now it's punishment time. And while Trump goes on about draining swamps, he's quietly protecting the deepest one on earth. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump's own MAGA mascot, admitted it. She went on Tucker Carlson and dropped the bomb. Congress is basically forced to worship Israel, pledge loyalty, post the right hashtags, show up at the right events, smile for the photo ops, or get buried. I don't think she even means that metaphorically. So it's out there, people. Israel is extorting members of Congress. As Anomaly posts here on Twitter, according to Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein is a terrific guy, and Thomas Massey is a very bad guy. End quote. Ain't that some shit? So just like in the music industry, you don't rise unless you bow to the DICs. And in DC as well, you got to get the Mossad approved stamp or you won't get anywhere. Professional blackmailers with deep files and deeper pockets. And if you think this is about Israel's safety, you're missing the whole show. This is leverage. This is about control, coercion dressed up as friendship. And the few politicians who won't bend, they get the knife in their back by their own teams, by their own allies. You would think Trump and Massey would be on the same page. I mean, at least be America first or find some common ground on some topics, but nope. Massey doesn't worship Israel, so to hell with him. Trump's team really spent $1 million to smear Thomas Massey in a crazy ad. It's just wild, like the money they throw around here. But whose agenda is this really? Because it sure as hell isn't America first. This is Netanyahu first. Trump is acting like a full-blown puppet, not even subtle about it. Take a look at this. The DOJ's June 2025 memo to denaturalize certain citizens lists ending anti-Semitism as one of the main reasons. You read that right. The Trump administration is getting ready to denaturalize and deport American citizens who criticize Israel. Yeah, nothing to see here. Just Trump doing exactly what Netanyahu would do if he was president of the United States. And when you see the standing ovation Bibi gets in Congress, you start to wonder if maybe he really is. And of course, Trump is playing the demonic little order out of chaos magician in the middle of all of it, because now all the conservative influencers are clapping like trained seals. Okay, libs of TikTok post this garbage right here. Trump's DOJ to prioritize denaturalizing citizens who committed crimes or lied to obtain citizenship. Right, sounds nice on paper until you read the fine print and realize anti-Semitism is getting lumped in with terrorism and human trafficking. That's how they do it, folks. The devil is in the details. And what do you think is buried in that big, beautiful bill of his, BBB 666? There's probably a clause in there that says every U.S. citizen will be required to fly an Israeli flag over their house by 2030. Okay? Call it the new Patriot Act, Tel Aviv edition. So a false flag is incoming, and we already know who it's going to be blamed on. Let's just head on over to Laura Loomer's Twitter page, okay? Droomer always lets us know what's going to happen. She laid it out clear as day. There will be another 9/11 in NYC, and Zohran Mamdani will be to blame. Well, thanks, Droomer. She didn't leave anything to the imagination with that one. Now, who is this guy she speaks on? That's the new Muslim socialist who just won the Democratic primary for New York City mayor, right in the middle of the Israel-Iran war frenzy. Think about that. The most Jewish city in America, and suddenly it installs a pro-Palestinian leftist right when the region's on fire. Seems to be a perfect setup if you think about it. A setup for a big event and the perfect narrative. The man is super weird, of course, eating rice with his hands, Muslim, socialist, hates white people, and he's extremely gay. And no, I'm not talking about Justin Trudeau, even though he fits the exact description. But get this, after Laura Joomer says a 9/11 style attack is incoming, Now we got major Jewish groups calling for Jews to evacuate NYC. Not just a warning, people, okay? Straight up orders to evacuate. All Jews evacuate. Betar, the Zionist youth movement, and the RJC, Zionist Republicans, are pushing this hard. The last time you saw headlines like this was right before 9/11. Coincidence, right? Just like Odigo, the Israeli-run instant messaging service with offices 2 blocks from the Twin Towers, got a cryptic warning 2 hours before the attacks on September 11. And what did they do? Nothing. They didn't warn the NYPD, didn't tell the feds, just kept it to themselves. A couple weeks later, many articles confirmed it. 2 employees received a message that something big was going to happen. Down to the minute. Their CEO, Alex Diamandis, said so himself. Odigo later claimed they were cooperating with Israeli and American law enforcement, including the FBI, but somehow the sender was never found. And Israel, our greatest ally, stayed quiet. And now history's rhyming again. Evacuation orders, but this time they got a Muslim mayor incoming. Jewish lobbyists freaking out, and the stage is fully dressed if you think about it, Whatever happens next, just know. They told you it was coming. They always do. The devils always let you know what the plans are. Okay, that's how the Luciferians work. Nick Fuentes had a great tweet here. He said, Trump wants to deport Elon Musk and U.S. citizens who criticize Israel, but plans to amnesty illegal immigrants who work in agriculture, hospitality, and construction. He's like a genie that gives you a cursed version of what you wish for and it ruins your life. This tweet was exactly what I was thinking when it comes to Trump, because I always thought of Trump like the Wishmaster. Wishmaster was a horror flick, I believe back in the 90s, about an ancient demonic genie called a jinn, who gets released from a gemstone and starts granting people wishes. But every wish he grants comes with a sick twist. Like you ask for beauty and he mutilates your face. You want money, someone dies that you're close to and you inherit it. Something like that. Every blessing becomes a curse. That's how he gains power. And if he can get 3 wishes out of the person who released him, he opens a portal and unleashes his entire demonic army to destroy the world. That's the plot. Grant twisted wishes. Build power. Trigger the apocalypse. Now back to Trump. He grants your wishes, sure, but always with a hidden clause that destroys your life. You beg for border control, he gives amnesty to illegal farmhands and hotel staff. You want to limit foreign influence? Suddenly 500,000 Chinese students flood US universities while big tech gets an endless stream of H-1B labor from overseas. You say America first, huh? Well, he hands out green cards to every foreign grad and keeps the money printer running for Israel and whatever other flag he's saluting that day. You ask for free speech, he starts threatening to deport Americans who criticize Israel, while quietly building out a biometric surveillance Skynet system using Palantir's database and the Real ID system. You wanted a golden age, huh? Too bad you get a golden dome system of endless tracking and China-style surveillance to gauge how anti-Semitic you are, okay? This is like sorcery right here. Trump isn't just the wishmaster, he's the chaos magician, the one chosen to bring order out of chaos. And what's wild is they're not even hiding it. We already know what the order out of chaos agenda is. We know who benefits. We know who the magician of the highest order serves. And here's where it gets real twisted. I'm sure many of you have seen this. Marina Abramovic, the spirit-cooking priestess of Satan herself, is out here saying Trump is the greatest thing to ever happen. Maybe, just maybe, okay, you should take this very serious right here. If she's calling him the magician we've all been waiting for, the one to help the DICs push their master plan forward, then it ain't a compliment. It's a confession about who the man really is. In one of the videos, she says this.
I just want to share with you one really funny opinion. But there is in Lapland, there is a group of the shamans there who do something called collective dreaming. They will go together in seclusion and do the rituals with, eating very little food and being in a solitude for a long time. And they will go and dream the dreams. And the dream have to be collective, same dream. So coming out of this dream, once of the shaman told me that actually the best thing happened in this planet right now is the Trump to be the president. I said, how is this possible? It's the best thing to happen. He said, yes, because he's so irrational, he's so crazy. That's actually create that awakening, that we finally wake up. Because before it will be another guy and everything looks similar. But he's so different than anything else. So he's the magician who waking us up. What do you think about that? That kind of theory.
Everybody's just quiet in the whole room.
You know, yeah, I know, it's speechless, I understand. but this is one opinion.
The hairs on the back of your neck stand up because there is a real truth behind it. It does seem that way. Order out of chaos, the chaos magician, occultist Marina Abramovic saying Trump is the best thing to ever happen to us. He is the magician of the highest order. Another video here.
Trump is the best thing happened ever to us.
Ever?
He is the magician of the highest order. That he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. And you know, it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down.
Crazy. The magician of the highest order. Chaos magicians and wizards. There was a high-ranking Satanist, highest order of the Luciferian temple, and also the highest degree in Freemasonry, is telling you they do consider themselves magicians and wizards. There's a reason why they use this language. So the Wishmaster, aka Trump, continues on here with a anti-Semitic task force. Just what we all needed. Yeah, free speech is back, baby. Now, why is this completely insane? Well, because the ADL considers almost everything anti-Semitic. Okay, they even told you flat out, questioning the official narrative of 9/11 is anti-Semitic.
If you're the mayor, you stop appointing and elevating people who have a history of being hostile to members of the Jewish community. And when you find out that they have that history, you get rid of them. Think about Pastor Johnson. The anti-Semitism isn't what doomed him. It was the 9/11 conspiracies.
You don't believe the official story of 9/11? Well, you probably hate Jews. And you're like, what? What the hell does that mean? You know, Leo Terrell, head of DOJ Anti-Semitism Task Force, says this: we're going to eliminate anti-Semitic conduct. We've got marching orders from President Trump. And of course, they put a black guy at the head of it, you know, just in case anyone criticizes it, they'll label you racist, of course. I mean, $38 trillion in debt, the American economy is going to collapse. And what does Trump do? Send billions of dollars to Israel. So much military equipment that they don't have anything to give Ukraine, apparently. In quotes, the military equipment in the States is now dangerously low. I mean, how crazy is that? Thanks, Israel, for using up all of the state's military equipment like that. It would be a great time to start a world war right now, if you think about it. You know, take a look at the money pit here called Israel. Their defense system is now burning through cash at a rate of $285 million per day. Let that sink in. That's 1 billion shekels every 24 hours. They've already lost over 30 missiles to leaks in the system, with over 600 wounded and 24 dead. And they're still bragging about a 90% success rate, which is a lie, of course, as we all know. I like this meme right here. It really lets you know the impact it's having. Man who is struggling to feed his family is just happy he can fund a war between two ethno-states 6,000 miles away. It really says it all, doesn't it? Iran's firing cheap missiles, Israel's burning through $1 million interceptors like their Candy, Arrow, Iron Dome, THAAD systems, $3 million, $9 million, $15 million a pop, all on your dime. The US military admits it blew through up to 20% of its global THAAD stockpile in just 11 days. That's nearly $1.2 billion torched in 2 weeks. Not on Detroit, which looks like it had a nuclear bomb dropped on it. Detroit looks like Gaza. Detroit looks like Hiroshima, Nagasaki after the fire bombing. Well, too bad they don't get a damn dollar. Not on border security either. Not on feeding Americans, on Israel. For a war they provoked. First off, for those who don't know, THAAD stands for Terminal High Altitude Air Defense. THAAD. You know, it rhymes with bad, and that's exactly what it is for your wallet. THAAD is a U.S. missile defense system built to shoot down incoming ballistic missiles. Each launch costs between $12 and $15 million, and it's not being used to defend America. And guess who's refilling it? The average U.S. citizen. While the U.S. collapses under debt, homelessness explodes, fentanyl wipes out entire generations, and the border turns into a revolving door where airlifting defense systems to Tel Aviv like D.C. found a money tree. This isn't aid, it's financial euthanasia. And now experts are openly saying it. Israel's whole system will collapse within a few weeks without a full U.S. bailout. That's crazy. Not might, will. And Western nations get inflation, food rationing talk for the climate, and collapsing cities. This is a collapse by design agenda. Drain America and fund endless wars, burn the dollar, then replace it with a digital leash. Trump's tariffs, Biden's Build Back Better, it's not left versus right, it's a coordinated demolition. Even Elon slipped for a moment, he let the mask drop, said flat out Trump was on the Epstein list. Admitted Trump's tariffs and Biden's fake Build Back Better bill were designed to tank the U.S. economy. He called it job-killing, suicidal, a strategic disaster. And then he deleted it. He deleted his Trump on the Epstein list tweet. Then he started giving Trump a pat on the back like nothing happened. Classic controlled op, isn't it? His job isn't to stop the collapse, it's to narrate it. And the collapse is coming. The Federal Reserve has already served its purpose. It printed money into oblivion, sucked out the last of the wealth, and now it's obsolete. What perfect timing, too. The next phase is here, okay? Crypto, AI, biometric control grids. The new beast system is here, and it doesn't need the old banker anymore. It needs data, obedience, and total submission. And while the circus plays out, the real war agenda marches forward. Tehran Times just exposed an Israeli false flag plot planned inside the US, meant to trigger full-scale war with Iran. According to the report, Israel intended to stage a terror attack on American soil, blame it on Tehran, and use the chaos as a pretext for invasion. Same old playbook every time, just like the Levant affair, just like the USS Liberty. Iran says they caught it before it went live. Tipped off by a friendly nation, end quote. But don't expect CNN to cover that, no. It blows up the whole illusion of strategic partnership. And the average American still thinks Tel Aviv is benevolent, okay? They would never do something like that. You think they wouldn't sacrifice the US to get their war? I mean, think about it. Ask the 34 Americans that were killed and 171 wounded on the USS Liberty. Ask what happened in Cairo when Israeli agents bombed Western targets and tried to frame Arabs. That's their script. They run it over and over again. The public doesn't want a war with Iran. 85% oppose it. Even Republican support is cratering, but the war machine doesn't care. They just need the spark. A cyber attack, a staged drone strike, a lone wolf with the right passport. That's all it takes. I mean, manufacture outrage, feed the media, roll in the tanks. It's all the same stuff. And right in the middle of it, the same guy, Donald Trump, who once called Iraq a scam, is now parroting Israel's talking points like he's trying to win a seat in the Knesset. Every one of these bastards is a puppet and doing exactly what they're told. What's going on right now in Gaza is straight up genocide and indiscriminate execution. Look up Operation Salted Fish. It's truly satanic, and the fact they called it that makes it sound like they think what they are doing is supposed to be funny. Cute name for mowing down starving civilians like it's target practice at a county fair. Israeli soldiers, their own soldiers, are admitting it. They're not targeting Hamas fighters, just crowds of Palestinians waiting for rice, bread, something to keep their kids from collapsing in the dirt. And what do they get? Machine gun fire, grenade launchers, mortars, snipers, tank shells to keep the line back, they say. Like we're talking about cattle, not human. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is literally a front for a slaughterhouse backed by Donald Trump. So starving children show up to get food, but if someone is on the wrong side of the line, boom, death sentence. This is what IDF soldiers are admitting. There's no crossfire, no enemies, no battles, Just orders to send a message in quotes. And when soldiers asked what the hell they were doing, the reply was, shut up and shoot. That's the most moral army in the world, preaching to us about ethics while they napalm a breadline, murdering children at breadlines, and they call themselves the most moral army in the world. At this point, that should be considered a sarcastic hate crime. And guess who doesn't want the world to see it? Netanyahu, that grinning ghoul, banned foreign journalists from Gaza. Imagine what the guy's hiding if even Western media, which is basically owned by Israel, aren't allowed in anymore. I mean, you know it's bad when even CNN can't be trusted to spread the exact right type of propaganda. And then, just like a psychopath finishing their lunch break mid-murder spree, Israel turns around after the Iranian missile drama and says, okay, back to Gaza. Like, sorry for the interruption, where were we? Back to regular scheduled genocide in Gaza now. So luring innocent people out just to use them for target practice. Doesn't that sound like what happened in Idaho recently? This little tranny freak that's obsessed with furries is the accused here, okay? They found him dead next to a gun. I guess he killed himself. He started a fire, lured out paramedics and firefighters just to shoot them dead when they got there. Real satanic shit. Straight up IDF tactics, am I right? Matter of fact, he really might be an IDF agent because they're now trying to paint him as a Nazi. If you can believe that. Yeah, because those Nazis always had a burning hatred towards firefighters. When's the last time you've seen a Nazi tranny? Yeah, I'm sure Hitler would be pleased. Chaos and devastation happening everywhere now, and the stories seem so discombobulated on purpose. Let me guess, a Nazi tranny took his life and left a manifesto swearing his allegiance to the Iranian regime, right? Might as well throw that one in there too. And as expected, 31% of Americans trust the media now. So the vast majority of people don't trust the media. That's less than the number who trust Congress, which means even fewer than those who trust mold on bread. And now Trump's calling Netanyahu a war hero? No, seriously, he said this in a tweet. Bibi Netanyahu is a war hero, he writes. Like the guy hasn't turned Gaza into a crater full of orphans and ash. But okay, sure, genocide now makes you a hero. But here comes the crazy part. The United States of America spends billions of dollars a year, far more than on any other nation, protecting and supporting Israel. Yeah, we know. He's not even hiding it. He's rubbing it in. That's some high-level chutzpah. And the closer here, let Bibi go. He's got a job to do. You mean firebombing bakeries? Flattening hospitals, turning apartment blocks into smoke and rubble, that kind of job. Trump isn't even pretending anymore. He's holding your tax dollars hostage, threatening to yank billions unless Israel drops a corruption case against Bibi. Let that swirl in your head for a sec. A current US president demanding a foreign nation let a war criminal walk free or else, over cigars and Bugs Bunny dolls, allegedly. Well, ain't that some Looney Tunes shit? And we're supposed to believe this has nothing to do with Trump personally? Come on. Netanyahu has something on him, period. Because since when do you go to bat this hard for a guy accused of mass murder unless you're compromised too? There's nothing in it for Trump, unless there is, of course. And suddenly, he's calling for a federal review to punish and deport anti-Semites right on cue, right when Netanyahu's reputation is on fire. You don't have to squint to see the strings here, okay? The DOJ is being weaponized not to protect Americans, but to shield Israel's image. This only confirms all these governments are infiltrated. But credit where it's due, okay? Because it's not like all things are bad here. Even if they're done to gain your trust just to snake you out in the end, I mean, it's still a good sign. In America, for example, the Supreme Court just ruled that parents can finally opt their kids out of public school lessons that included LGBTQ plus content. The parents, Muslim, Catholic, and Ukrainian Orthodox, argued that being forced to keep their children in those classes violated their religious beliefs. The school district had made it clear the curriculum was mandatory, no opt-out allowed. But the question I had when I read this was, it was mandatory? I had no idea. Mandatory to teach this garbage. Doesn't it sound insanely Jewish? I mean, can we bring back the Nazi book burnings again? Jews are still pissed off about that, by the way. They haven't got over their burning of their gay porn stash. Matter of fact, they were so pissed off they created a whole lie about the Holocaust. I gotta say though, this story makes me furious. Parents couldn't pull their kids out of a lesson that went against their faith. For years, this was the case. That's the part that should have everyone paying attention here, because this wasn't about banning books or removing content. It was about the state refusing to let parents step in and say no. And it took a Supreme Court ruling to reverse that. That should tell you exactly where we are here. Even basic parental rights have to be fought for in court. And while I don't trust the people behind this decision, especially Trump and his handlers, this ruling still matters because it sets a precedent that parents, not the state, have final say when it comes to their kids' moral and religious upbringing. Making it mandatory to go over gay porn books, showing cartoon characters of two men giving fellatio was mandatory, and parents couldn't take their kids out of that class. How insane is that? Doesn't that just make you want to rock a Nazi uniform? Seriously. Trump is not the only one playing that game though, okay? RFK Jr. is no exception. Trump and RFK are like the tag team Judas Goats. Make America great again by bombing Iran and sending another $1 billion to Israel while Americans starve. RFK with his Make America healthy again by making Americans rock wearables and get their wrists radiated with 6G tech. The guy who used to sound the alarm about EMFs, the dangers of 5G, and forced medical surveillance is now pushing wearables that connect to 6G and Wi-Fi. But wait, years back, RFK said Wi-Fi causes leaky brain. It degrades your mitochondria and opens up your blood-brain barrier. Yeah, he changed real quick, right? Yeah, classic Jewish 180. The US government silenced, halted, and shut down the research. Wi-Fi radiation damages the blood-brain barrier, end quote. He said that on a Joe Rogan show. But after, Rabbi Shmuley got a hold of RFK, he changed his tune. The idea that we need wearables that bathe us in 5G radiation to achieve health is insane. These wearables aren't for your benefit, they're for data extraction, sold to you as empowerment, but wired for control. RFK is now tweeting about syncing your vitals to a third-party, unnamed company. Like, that will help us. Once again, it will be sold to us as public health, but guaranteed it will do more than just track how many steps we took in a day. Okay, I'll get into that a little later, but here's where RFK actually did something useful. Here is a good sign, even if it was buried in all the chaos and noise. RFK Jr. exposed that the CDC covered up an internal study in 1999 showing a 1,135% increase in autism risk from the hepatitis B vaccine. A buried report led by researcher Thomas Verstraeten. According to Kennedy, when they saw the numbers, they were shocked. So what did they do? They deleted the evidence. They then removed older children from the study so the autism cases wouldn't show up. They then told the public the issue was resolved. He also exposed why pediatricians are so aggressive about vaccines. It's not about your child's health, it's about revenue. According to a published report, up to 50% of revenue for many pediatric clinics comes directly from vaccines, and there's a financial bonus tied to vaccination rates. That's why if you ask to delay or skip shots, your doctor is more likely to kick you out rather than discuss it. You're a threat to their business model. And to all the pro-vax, depopulationist psychopaths who repeat that the vaccine autism link has been debunked, well, get this. None of the vaccines given to children in their first 6 months of life have ever been studied for autism. Not one. The CDC even found a connection with the DTaP shot using their own VAERS data, and they threw it out. Said the system they created wasn't reliable, then used that excuse to avoid taking any action. Crazy, right? So even if their own system finds a connection here between vaccines and autism, they'll say, well, I guess the system must be wrong, and then delete it. How demonic, seriously, sadistic. I honestly think some of these people get off on the fact that children are being harmed. And you know what? It makes sense. A high percentage of doctors show psychopathic traits, not just because of the control they have over the human body, but because medicine gives them access to the most vulnerable, authority over life and death, and a socially respected cover to hide behind. Very important. It's like the lab coat is the mask. So yeah, credit where it's due, that exposure matters. Maybe it will prevent some parents from poisoning their children in the future, but that doesn't mean RFK isn't part of the same controlled narrative. He told the truth to build credibility, and now he's channeling that credibility into wearing biometric tracking. MOB incoming, okay? Mark of the Beast, delivered by the Men in Black. Yeah, so MOB given to us by the MIB. And if you think that's hyperbole, check this out right here.
A means of authentication that you could simply wear on your skin every day for a week at a time, say an electronic tattoo. Now, we're talking about wearables. Everybody's interested in I'm profoundly interested in wearables. And what I will tell you is that there are we've made a lot of advances in wearables, but there's still some fundamental problems that we haven't solved. Like one of them is the mechanical mismatch between humans and electronics, right? So electronics are boxy and rigid, humans are curvy and soft. That's a mechanical mismatch problem. Well, a researcher at the University of Illinois, his name is Dr. Rogers, what he discovered is that he could use standard CMOS techniques to make islands of high-performance silicon connected by accordion-like structures that would allow it to stretch up to 200% and still be performing. And what he did is he founded a company, and they started making electronic tattoos. So I'm wearing one here on my arm.
Of course you
We
is.
have a camera to get a...
This is a
Mark of the Beast.
developmental system made
Actually, this is my Mark of the Beast. It keeps me safe
by MC10.
and healthy.
And it has an antenna and some sensors embedded in it. And what we plan to do is work with them to advance a tattoo that could be used for authentication. Now, it may be true that 10 to 20-year-olds don't want to wear a watch on their wrist, but you can be sure that they'll be far more interested in wearing an electronic tattoo, if only to piss off their parents.
See, they're trying to use psychological manipulation already for the younger generation to have them wear these, Mark of the Beast tattoos. But here's the twisted part. Your phone already does this, but you don't care, right? Because it's convenient. Google what is a wearable, and it shows devices like this that keep track of steps, heart rate, sleep trackers. But I think this is a form of conditioning. They're normalizing surveillance under the guise of fitness. And once the wearable's normalized, humans automatically gravitate towards more convenience. Why have a physical device on me when it could be just a tattoo, then an implant, then a Neuralink because, your phone was too bulky. So inconvenient to pull out a phone and unlock it just to start your car, Why not a brain chip? That way you can just blink and unlock the door to your house. Sounds cool, right? The truth is, humanity's self-destruction will come under the idea of convenience. They don't even need to be coerced. The demons will just frame it as easier, safer, or even trendy. And then boom, cool new tech turns into total enslavement. Was this always the plan? COVID was the beta test for the idea of wearables. A virus they told us was floating in the air, so we needed QR codes just to eat? Yeah, that makes sense. And people lined up to get injected with who knows what. We're still waiting on the answer for that. A month before COVID was announced, they ran a simulation, Event 201, about a theoretical outbreak of a coronavirus. Then they announced it a month later. And that same month, in December 2019, a study done by Bill Gates and his own people, storing medical information between the skin's surface, invisible dye delivered via vaccine, a built-in medical record, no paper, no app, just embedded proof straight under your skin. If you think all of that is a coincidence, then congrats. You're retarded. But just like Event 201, they had a simulation ran last year. Get this. Look at the scenario laid out in the report released last year titled the 2024 National Blueprint for Biodefense. And this was done by an independent group called Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know they existed. It's a simulation of a bioterrorist attack set for July 4th, 2025, Independence Day was chosen for maximum psychological and political impact. The scenario is framed as a congressional hearing that takes place after the crisis happens. The crisis being a genetically engineered Nipah virus that is unleashed across the U.S., highly transmissible and deadly. The virus kills 280,000 people and infects 400,000 more in just one day. It wipes out another 200,000 animals, revealing a secondary objective: agricultural collapse. The report outlines coordinated global attacks, killing tens of thousands more in allied nations, they say. Funny they mention this is done to allied nations, right? It even details how the attackers conducted small-scale trial runs in advance, undetected by federal systems. It says enemies will take advantage of government laziness. It calls out government failure across the board, and get this, it will happen because the government didn't have any meaningful reform after COVID. No working surveillance, no early warning, old systems still in place. And the solution in this whole simulation: give the White House more power, more money, and full control over public health through the National Security Council, a fake crisis used to justify permanent control. And just like that, here comes the next chapter, written in advance. July 4, 2025, that's the date laid out in a simulation created by the Bipartisan Commission on Biodefense. Immediate action needed to defend against biological threats. It's not about public safety, obviously. We all know what this ends in: a chain around your leg and neck. The scenario shows a fake congressional hearing after a biological attack on U.S. cities. Always the Hegelian dialectic. So COVID was means for QR codes to condition the minds, and now whatever comes next, the solution will be wearables. Either a patch, a sticker, or a wristband, something on your skin that says you've been scanned, cleared, and updated. Not just to enter a building, but to exist. And while the simulation doesn't name names, the real-world rollout is already happening. Dr. Susan Monarez is one of the key players. She was deputy director of ARPA-H, the health branch modeled after DARPA, created to merge advanced defense technologies with the medical system. Her focus is on integrated AI, wearables, and real-time biometric surveillance into everyday healthcare. And now Trump has appointed her as CDC director. The same Trump who claims to be fighting the deep state just put a pro-mRNA, pro-transhumanist DARPA insider in charge of public health. Her agenda aligns perfectly with the next phase: tracking your health through wearable devices, storing your medical history on implantable tech, and turning your body into a data node for AI systems. This is the foundation for a biometric control grid, sold to you as innovation, but obviously used for obedience. And with the mRNA as the operating system, they can now update your biology the same way they update your phone. Instead, update is the wrong word because it's downgrade your intelligence and create a weaker, inferior species that's easier to control. That's the whole idea behind mRNA tech. The tech is already done. Stanford and UNC made a 3D printer vaccine patch. No needles, they say. They say it's up to 50 times more effective than the shot. It's cheap, easy to mass produce, and aimed at undeserved communities, end quote. Which means human test subjects. The fact they actually say these patches are for undeserved communities, it sounds like another phrase for useless eaters. And it's not just about tracking what goes into your body, it's about watching what your body does at all times, because wearables aren't just data collectors, okay? They're receivers, transmitters, test devices, and they're not the limit, they're just the bridge, the gateway drug to full environmental surveillance. You think it stops at a wristband? Yeah, think again, because now they're watching you through your Wi-Fi. Xfinity just rolled out Wi-Fi Motion, a feature that tracks movement inside your home using nothing but Wi-Fi signals. No cameras, no sensors, just waves bouncing off your vaccinated body because maybe it works better with the vaccinated, mapping your exact position in real time. Crazy that this stuff can just automatically do this. Can it read heart rates too? Maybe you do have to be vaccinated to have it work on you. I didn't even know Wi-Fi was capable of that. And if that's the case, what do you think wearables will be capable of? They'll tell you it's to monitor your heartbeat, and in reality, it's like reading your thoughts in live time, giving you a social credit score based on what you think. Oh, you thought brain chips were bad and AI robot police were bad? Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. That's right, Mr. Doom and Gloom is back at it here to report on some great news. You know I'm good for that. Look at what they have now. Seriously, this popped up on my screen and I almost bursted out laughing because, the horrors are just beyond our comprehension. And where your mind leads you, down these rabbit holes when you think about these things, it's like, what the hell is the future going to look like? Light-activated microbots the size of dust to help with clearing out sinuses. They're calling them CBMRs. Are you ready to hear what that spells out right there? Copper single atom loaded bismuth oxoiodide photocatalytic micro robots. Unbelievable. Oh my God. Thank God for editing. You think I got that one right in one try? A real fancy name for nanotech in your fucking nose. These bots are guided magnetically through your sinus cavities, where they swarm together, break apart bacterial biofilms, and blast the infected tissue with what they call reactive oxygen species. And when they're done, they just exit, apparently. That's right, they just leave your system and go to Neverland, right? What the hell do they really do? And are they everywhere? Are they raining down these nanobots from the clouds? Remember, I went over articles about them trying to solve climate change and block out the sun with actual nanobots rain down from jets. You can't make this stuff up. So when people are saying, hey, even the unvaxxed are popping up with this self-assembling graphene nanotech, well, yeah, they've been spraying it down on us for years. But guess what works? Something like chlorine dioxide. That's right, there are reports of chlorine dioxide actually working, destroying these structures in our bodies. But I'm going to cover this a lot more extensively in a future show because there's a lot to cover here, including the errors that could take place by studying someone's blood. I'm not saying there's zero truth behind it, but let's just pump the brakes a little. I got to cover this extensively later, but some of these images from the dark field microscopy look questionable. Low resolution, edge of slide artifacts, even possible dust or air bubbles being framed as nanotech. And when someone tells you there's a scary particle in your blood and then says, click the links in the description to remove said scary particle, well, that's a red flag in itself. I'll dive deeper, like I said, in another time. But just for now, remember, fear sells fast, and a lot of people pushing these claims might be more interested in your wallet than your well-being, okay? So now they're saying micro robots, nanobots, can be sprayed in your nose, and they will remove all the bad bacteria in there, okay? And the researchers are patting themselves on the back for how non-invasive it all is, end quote. Yeah, remote-controlled dust swarms blasted into your skull is now non-invasive. They said it's perfect for those who want to be drug-free. If you think about it, this is a great way to plant nanotech in people, right? Especially the unvaxxed. Because if you got a problem with vaccines, well, no problem. Come get this inhalable relief, okay? Guaranteed it's loaded with these nanobots. Now I know for sure when they talked about inhalable vaccines, yeah, guaranteed those are loaded with these nanobots right here. And what a coincidence. At the same time, the Chinese military is rolling out fly-sized drones designed for covert surveillance and battlefield ops. A mosquito-sized nanobot, 1.3 centimeters wide, with wings, legs, and almost zero visibility. Developed by China's National University of Defense Technology. If they have nanobots that can go into your sinuses, don't you think those can be weaponized too? And do you really think China is the only country with this tech? Imagine what the US or Israel has. Reports coming out showing weird nanocomputers in the unvaxxed now. You know, you never know what they're raining down on the population. But my motto is no fear over here, people. I'm telling you, the power of the mind is something else. You can't be in fear 24/7 like, oh my God, I have nanobots in me. I'm going to go spend all my money on this device they say will remove the nanobots. You know, you can't be so much in fear. You're a cowering little wimp. I think that in itself does a lot of damage to somebody's psyche. Being in a good mind state, eating healthy, you know, watch what you consume, not only physically, mentally as well. I think you'll be in great health. But they have this tech now in China, and we're supposed to believe the US isn't building the exact same thing. The same people funding Palantir, you know? Palantir's CEO saying he would like drones to spray fentanyl-laced urine on people that oppose him. But I'm sure he was just joking, right? So when 6G pops up later this year and the new EMF soup starts frying our nervous systems that never evolved for it, we already know people might get sick again. Matter of fact, wasn't this written in the SPARS document? The SPARS 2025 to 2028 document Johns Hopkins University put out years back, where they laid out a vaccine accident that causes mad cow-style prion disease. Sound familiar? Here in Canada, we have endless virus fear porn, not just in Canada, but around the world. And go look this up yourselves. Type in bat bite rabies and go to the news section. Thousands of articles of bats biting people and giving them rabies. The made up rabies, okay? Look into how Louis Pasteur proved rabies. Okay, he injected rotting flesh into the brain of a monkey and killed it. There you go. That's rabies. Yeah. How dumb is rabies? Well, one of these articles here says a man in his 50s was bit by a bat and then developed rabies-like symptoms 4 months later. Yeah, I'm sure it was the bat bite, right? They're going to use this and say bats are now spreading mad cow disease. You need an iron slave collar that tracks your vitals just in case. Pfizer has a study showing just how bad their vaccine is causing myocarditis in kids. And they'll let you know soon, okay? They'll let you know in 2030 just how bad it is. They're doing the research right now. Yeah, just give them 5 more years to poison as many kids as possible. The study was supposed to end 2025, this year, but now they need more time because when the results expose the damage, just like the CDC did with the vaccines cause autism study, Pfizer is doing the same thing with this study. But in the study, it says they were tracking 300 children with vaccine-triggered myocarditis, another 100 with heart issues from COVID or miscellaneous in quotes here, whatever that means, using standard tests like MRIs and ECGs. They have the data now, but won't show you. Yeah, I wonder why. And they picked the date 2030, which isn't random. It's the deadline. That's the target, the global finish line for their vaccine rollout. Ursula von der Leyen, another person that has multiple charges right now and is being investigated, the unelected EU pharma mouthpiece, stood on stage and said this. They pledged $290 million with Gavi, Bill Gates' own company, to inject over 500 million children by 2030. So now we know why Pfizer said they'll let us know how bad it is in 2030 because they'll tell you what they've done when it's too late. Because if the study ended in 2025 this year and showed what many already suspect, the whole agenda might crack. So they bury the evidence while the injections keep flowing. They want to damage as many children's hearts as possible. These are real psychopaths. The shot is still on the shelf too, still marketed as safe and effective, even as the FDA quietly updates the warning label. Just like the CDC tossed out its own autism link with the DTaP vaccine, Pfizer's now doing the same. They're stalling long enough to bury the study because once the 2030 agenda is complete, you can't unjab an entire generation. And you sure as hell can't fight back against a system with a weakened heart and turbo cancer. We got to give a good round of applause here to the believe everything they're told crowd. Billy the Baphomet, the same man who spent years telling you the world is overpopulated, is also saying, please take my vaccine. And then the world is hit with the biggest coincidence ever. 5 years later, global fertility rates are dropping, not just in one country, damn near all Western nations. Experts are baffled. See how fast the science changes on you? Trust the experts. And this is getting long, folks. I got to leave it right there. I apologize this came out a little late because I did get the blue screen of death while recording on Monday, and I lost a lot of work. I thought I could edit it back in, but the editing process was a nightmare, but I did spend hours editing it. Then I had to scrap the whole project. Then I had to update the script because new information came out. So this was pretty brutal to get done. And a lot of people have been mentioning switching operating systems, which would be even more a nightmare because you got to look into compatibility issues with Pro Tools, OBS, Premiere Pro, all the programs I use. I edit 4K video, so there's a lot I do. I don't just log in and watch a video on BitChute and check my Hotmail, okay? I have a lot of things I use, programs I use, and they need to work well with the operating system. You can't risk just switching over and then having it 1,000 times worse, which a lot of people do say they have with systems like Linux. So I'm pretty much stuck here with this. Unless I create my own operating system, you never know. The EyesIsWatchin operating system. But yeah, I got to leave it right there, folks. If you got cool things to send me, links are in the description for ways to support. Emails if you guys want to send me cool things. P.O. Box if you guys want to send me cool mail. Crypto wallets are in the description for all my crypto people out there. Bitcoin. Please consider being a monthly subscriber on Patreon or Subscribestar. It'll be greatly appreciated. You will be helping fund this show. And without your support, it does not continue. So big shout out to my Patreon people and my Subscribestar people, all the people that have sent me donations. It's because of you. This carries on. A lot of work goes into just one of these. So if you have sent me any kind of donation before, it lets me know you do appreciate the effort that I put in into just one of these shows. So God bless all of you. And until next week, folks, until next time, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the EyesIsWatchin channel. Signing off.